What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I want to talk to you about some boxing in the super welterweight or the junior middleweight division, which is 154. Jered Hurd has called out Erislandy Lara. These are two champions at 154 pounds. Jered Hurd, he's the IBF. Lara is the WBA, and he's looking for a unification, You got two other champions. You have Charlo, which is the WBC, and then you have Saddam Ali, which upset Cotto with the WBO. So, you got these guys that want to fight each other, which is good, and I commend Hurd for that, because Hurd, after he put a whooping on Austin Trout, which was a very good fight, and I covered it live, because I was there at Barclays that night, and it was a very good fight, and Hurd showed that he pretty much took whatever Austin Trout could dish out, and Austin Trout is a veteran. He was a guy that was an ex-champ. He was one of the guys, along with Saddam Ali, to upset Cotto. So, that was his claim to fame, and I always liked Austin Trout. He has a good, spirit about him. He's a good, humble fighter from Las Cruces in New Mexico, and he hit Hurd with some bombs. This wasn't a regular fight. This was probably one of the most exciting fights in that card. And Hurd, being the young, stronger, hungrier fighter, not saying he was the most experienced, because he wasn't. Austin Trout had the experience because he dipped and dodged and weaved a lot of those punches with his defense. But when he got into a firefight with Hurd, eventually it counted against him, because Hurd just kept coming. He was younger, he was fresher, he was hungrier, and he punched with more evil intentions, because he was, he had something more to prove than Austin Trout. But any warrior, young or old, if you're a young warrior, you have to defeat the old warrior. You have to get him out of there. There's no remorse from that. You got to beat that guy at his game, or he's going to beat you either way, So Hurd really impressed me with that win, because I really thought that Austin Trout had too much experience for him and still had enough in the tank to take out Hurd. But Hurd took whatever he had and kept coming and put Austin Trout up. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because he's going there against Erislandy Lara, and he's calling out Lara, and he wants to fight Lara. So if you look at him fighting him, you look at the attributes that Lara has. Lara is a straight-up boxer. He's a boxer. He has to set punches up. He takes his time. He calculates. Lara doesn't even like to waste shots, really. That's why he doesn't throw a lot. Because he's such, Cuban boxers, they're all really about points. They're all about hit and not get hit. Most of them are pure boxers. A lot of them fight from the southpaw stance, which Lara does. Defensively, he's better. He's a lot better than Austin Trout. But Austin Trout wasn't terrible when he fought Jay Hurd, okay? Mr. Swift, all right? Well, that still didn't stop Hurd. So if you look at guys that are pressure fighters, which Hurd is a pressure fighter, I don't think he's as much as a pressure fighter as Alfredo Angulo, El Perro. I don't think that he's as aggressive as El Perro, but he's just as aggressive. So guys that are aggressive, like Angulo, he's more than likely he can give Lara trouble if he can crowd Lara. You can never really outpoint Lara. You can always out-hustle him, though. You know what I mean? And the thing about Lara has to set those punches up. But if you crowd a boxer, if you stay too busy for a boxer, you don't really give him time to think. He's a good boxer, but he's not like Floyd. Floyd can sit in the pocket and anticipate the punches. You know what I mean? He can matrix your ass like high tech. You know what I mean? But Lara's not that type of fighter. He's not going to sit in the pocket of anywhere. Now, I really don't know too many Cubans that do that anyway, because of the way they were trained. They're not trained to. They play a little cat and mouse game where they sit back in the pocket and wait for you to make a mistake, and then they have enough distance already to counter from the punches that you've punched or you've thrown, okay? So they react off your action, in other words, but they do it from a distance, like Rigondeaux, like Lara, like Ortiz at times. Ortiz in Rances Bartholomew, those guys are a little bit more aggressive than the traditional Cubans. So if Jay Hurd can crowd Lara, if he can get Lara off his game plan like Angulo, he has a good chance. And I've noticed when I saw Lara's fight, because he was the headliner in the main event at that same he was on that same undercard. I mean, he wasn't on the undercard. He was on that same card. He was the premier, and he fought a guy, and I don't see the same Erislandy Lara, and honestly, I haven't seen the same Lara since the Angulo fight. He was much more aggressive. He threw a lot more punches in the Angulo fight. It might have been desperation because he was dropped twice, and he was dropped multiple times during that bout. So that might have been him throwing those punches because they were there, but he knew he had to land, he had to score, So, and I'm not really sure in Vegas that he would have won the decision against Angulo because Angulo did have 2 knockdowns scored on him. So, but after that fight, I haven't seen Lara, with that same type of punch output. I think he's learned and he got more defensive and more defensive. So, I think Lara has good conditioning because he uses his legs a lot. You know what I mean? A lot of people call them runners. I really don't use that term, runners, because, he can't run to the locker room. You know what I mean? If you got a guy that uses his legs that like to move, Sugar Ray did it, and especially Sugar Ray's classic for doing it against Hagler. You know what I mean? He didn't get in a firefight with Hagler. Floyd with Pacquiao. He didn't get in and Pacquiao has a good set of legs on him, but he's not that type of fighter. He's a scrapper. You know what I mean? A boxer puncher, where Floyd uses his legs. So those guys use their legs along with Lara. So it's really up to the other fighter to bring it to a guy that moves his legs. You have to adjust to a guy that moves. If because his game plan is going to box, you have to make him fight your fight, or you have to adjust to the strategy that he's putting or he's trying to execute on you. So, if Hurd gets frustrated, okay, from the movement of Lara, he will lose. Because what'll happen with a guy like Jered, he might be strong, he might be hungry, but if he's not able to hit Lara will box him all night. It would be a very long night. You're going to hear boos because a lot of people don't respect those type of fights. That's why a lot of people love UFC because, these guys, a lot of them stand toe to toe and, things of that nature. And you do have seldom in boxing, you do have guys that are boxers, that are brawlers, that are boxer punchers, so to say. And these guys do go toe to toe and they do give a good fight, but at the expense of their own bodies and taking damage, from concussions and other parts of their body, that can inflict damage long term on them. So a lot of people, the fans, need to know when guys go toe to toe like that, they're putting their health in danger. They're at risk of future, just really hurting themselves. This is long term, pain and injury. So, guys like Lara, he wants to avoid things like that. Him, Mayweather, Sugar Ray Leonard. If you look at these guys now, even Sugar Ray, I just seen a video with him. He looks good. And not to go too far off topic, the point I'm trying to make is a guy like Lara, which is a pure boxer, he's not gonna, if he can help it, he's not gonna let Hurd just come in and do what he's gonna do. But it's Hurd's objective to come in, cut off the ring, and give him a volume of punches, just like he did Austin Trout. But only thing is, Trout will engage with you, Lara will not. So just hopefully for Hurd will give him a good enough run for his money and can possibly outpoint him, because Lara's not going to exchange with you. He's not going to exchange blows with you. You might get a 1-2, maybe a 4-punch combo. You might get that once every round from Lara. But other than that, you won't at all. So, being that what it said, the best thing for Hurd, and Hurd did call out Lara because he's ready. And I like that. I like that kind of competition because if you want to fight the best, you're trying to challenge yourself to see how good you are. I can only take my hat off to anyone that does that and in that square ring, So I'm going to end it with this. If Hurd can inflict and can keep Lara busy and keep him from setting up his punches, he can win. He can win a decision. But I don't see a knockout coming unless Lara gets old overnight. And I said he hasn't been the same fighter since the Angulo fight. In the last fight I seen him fight live, he wasn't the same. So he slowed down his punch output on top of, he's increased his defense. Floyd did the same thing, but Floyd gradually did it. Floyd was just a lot smarter, but Floyd knew how to score when it counted. I don't think Lara really has that down. I think Lara thinks, well, as long as they don't hit me or, an impact in the fight, he can't win. I don't think that Lara loses fights. I just think he doesn't do enough to win. So if Hurd can outwork him, he could possibly pull up an upset. And you guys tell me what you think about these two particular fighters, these two champions at 154 getting into the ring. Until then, this is probably the last video of the year. So if you don't hear from me again, Happy New Year's, and you guys been counterpunched. Peace.